Well, here in Western Washington, we are having a serious cold snap. The lows are like -30 in some places. Where I live, it's like in the single digits, and the highs are like in the 30s, so it did warm up a little bit. So instead of going fishing and freezing, getting my guides all frozen up and my fingers going numb with the bitter cold, I decided to do some of the honey-do list chores today and have a lovely little shed day. Got the fire roaring. It started off at like 18 degrees in here, and now we're up to, I think, 52 degrees or something like that. So gonna tie some flies on this cold January day. So let's tie this guy. This is the Rainbow Stimulator. And here's some of the materials that you're gonna need for this one. So we just have our basic tools here. One of the unique things you might want for this one is a hair stacker, a little bit of head cement to finish it right here. And we're gonna go with 140 denier waxed thread in yellow, but you could do a different color if you want. And I'll tie 2 different sizes of this today. So we're gonna go with a size 10, pretty beefy one with double X long, and also a size 12. Then we're gonna go with some of this flashy stuff for the body, and a little bit of crystal flash for the tail. And I've only ever tied them with the bleached elk hair, but I'm gonna do a little bit today with the dark brown elk hair as well. And then to finish it off, some dry fly Grizzly Hackle. You can swap out some of these materials if you want with different colors, different type of, hackle, whatever. So this is how we're gonna tie the Rainbow Stimulator. It's kind of like a stimulator and a rainbow warrior mixed together. So yeah, let's crack a beer and let's get tying. Ooh, getting low on the supplies. There we go. Cheers. All right, let's get set up. We got our little hook. I like to pinch the barbs first. And we'll put it in our vise. Start with a few thread wraps around the eye. I'll go way back. First step will be to tie in the tail. So we're going to take our patch of elk fur, pinch off a small bit, I don't know, something like 12, 15, 20 fibers, something like that. Small little bit. Cut it off real close to the patch here. So now we have our little stack of hair. I'm going to pinch it at the tips and pull out all of this little loose underfur. Look at all that stuff. So that just is going to be in the throwaway pile, or you could always use that for dubbing for a different fly. Okay, so we've pulled all that out, and now we want all of these tips to be evenly stacked, and so we're going to actually use our hair stacker for that. So we're going to put them all in, point down in the hair stacker, and give it a few taps on the table. Just like that. And then we'll pull out the top. Oh, whoops, I fucked that up. Okay, and now all of our hairs are mostly even with each other, which is what we want. And you can see they're all different lengths on the tail end, which is fine because we're going to cut that away anyways. We want it to stick out the back about as long as the shaft of the fly is, or in this case a little shorter because this is an extra long one. So we're going to have it stick out just about a ½ an inch, maybe a little less. So I'm going to hold that down and give it a few wraps, starting off loose and tightening as I go down. Giving plenty of room at the eye of the hook. And then what I'm going to do, give a few more wraps and work backwards. I'm going to cut these off. Clean it up a little bit. Rotary vise really helps with some of these steps. So now I'm just going to give it a few more tighter thread wraps all the way down. So now for the tail too, we're going to tie in a little bit of this crystal flash. So I'm going to pull out a thread and we'll fold it in half on itself. Just like that. Give it a cut. And we'll do that one more time. Now we have our two pieces of crystal flash. We're going to loop it around the thread and go ahead and tie that in. And we'll make that be just a little bit longer than the tail itself. Not too much longer, just a little bit. All right. The next step is to give the body that rainbow sheen. So we're going to go ahead and rip off a single piece of this shiny stuff and we'll tie it in to our fly. Start at the back and wrap all the way forward about midway. And now what we're gonna do is, actually I'll make a little loop here so that my thread doesn't go anywhere while we use the rotary vise for this. Do one more of those. And now we're gonna use the rotary vise to get this to wrap around the body. And I like the wraps to be close together, but you could do them sparser if you prefer. I want as much of that shiny stuff showing as possible. All right, so we're gonna do that about midway down, and we're gonna use our thread to tie it off. And then we can cut or break that little bit off. Okay, so that's the tail, that's the body. Now we are ready for the wing. So we're gonna go back down about midway and cut off our second bit of elk hair. About the same size as you used for the tail, maybe slightly more. All right, so about 12 to 20 pieces of tail fiber. Cut it off real close to the base, pinch it at the tips, and pull out all the underfur. And it's okay if accidentally a few of the shorter ones come out too. There we go. And we're gonna put it in our hair stacker. Do the same thing. We're gonna give it a few taps. Okay, and another way you can get it out too is turning it kind of on its side gently and pulling it out this way and then grabbing this tip right here. There you go. Pull out any of the ones that are loose. And now what you want for this part is you want the wing to be about the same length as the tail. So you're going to kind of line it up. To where you think you want it. Lay it on top of the hook. And then you're going to start to do your wraps. I start off kind of loose and then I tighten as I go. And to keep it on top, instead of pulling tension evenly the whole time you wrap it around, I'm only going to pull tension on the down. So tension, wrap, tension, wrap, tension. And this is kind of spread these guys out, but I'm going to lay them back down and now I'm going to start to walk it forward. Use my fingers to kind of help keep it down. And then once you have a good base that it's tied down, we're going to cut off some of this extra elk fur that's sticking out. And now we can really give some good tight wraps all the way back. So now what I'm gonna do is pick out a nice piece of Grizzly hackle. So we got our cape right here. And for picking out a piece of Grizzly hackle feather, we don't want it to be too short or too long. So I don't want those fibers to stick below the hook bend, the pointy end of the hook, too far. So only about that long, so you can kind of test it out before you even peel a feather off. And hold it up to it and just see how long are these fibers. That's a pretty long one. So we're gonna try to pick a slightly smaller sized feather. Maybe one like this. Okay, that's way better. So this feather will do. We'll pick this guy out. Pluck it out. All this part of the feather is not the part that we're gonna use. So we're gonna actually just cut off this part to about right there. Just like that. Great. And now we're gonna tie in our feather. So let me work it back some. So I'm gonna line up the feather here against the shaft of the hook. Tie it down and then work it all the way forward. Tight wraps. We're gonna go ahead and bring our thread to where we're gonna tie it in. I'm gonna give a little loop just so that thread doesn't go anywhere. Now we're gonna take our feather and start to wrap it. Just like this. One more wrap behind it. We're gonna wrap it all the way to where our thread is. Medium tight wraps. Okay, last wrap. Now I'm gonna tie it off. Hold the feather up, wrap the thread around it. Do this several times. And then what we can do is cut off the tip of the feather here. A little tail left, and now we'll pull these little feathers back. There's a few sticking forward. We'll clean that off later and really give some tight wraps here. So last step will be to whip finish it, clean it up, and add a little bit of glue. So I love my little whip finish tool, but you could do this by hand if you want. But about 4. Pull it tight, and I'll just do 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Okay, we're gonna cut the thread and clean up the eyelet right where these little feathers are sticking out. Just gonna cut those off. Okay, last step. Just a tiny bit of head cement to really lock it down at the front. Just a couple dabs. And there you go. A not professionally tied Rainbow Stimulator. This fly is an attractor pattern, so it doesn't really emulate a specific bug, but it emulates a whole bunch of different things, and the fish love it most of the time. Good summertime fly. Yeah, while it's the winter time right now, and we're dreaming about the dog days of summer, imagining ourselves floating down rivers, wading down rivers in shorts and flip-flops and having a great time on the riverbank. but it's winter. So we're gonna just daydream about it here while we tie up some summertime flies. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little break from tying flies so that I can tell you about something that I'm really excited about coming up, which is that I'm currently designing a logo for Fungi on the Fly with the hopes to, in the future, sell some hats and t-shirts if you guys are into that. So I would love to hear from you guys what you're most interested in if you were to buy merch. Like, would it be a hat? Would it be a t-shirt? Would it be a sweatshirt? Please let me know in the comments, because that's the exciting stuff that's on the way. So in the meantime, just gonna stay warm in here, tie some flies, have a great afternoon here with the dog and the stove burning, and stay warm because it is cold out there. And I hope everybody at home watching, hope you guys all stay warm. And if you are doing any outdoor activities, hope that you're safe and careful. And I appreciate all of you watching, clicking like, clicking subscribe. If you use any of my affiliate links, thank you for that as well. And I will see you on the next video. You coming to say hi? Oh yeah, so good. Such a good girl.